Hi, I'm John Bailey, gemstone artist and founder of the Faceting Academy. Welcome to our training facility and to our video about the unboxing and assembly of the Facetron faceting instrument. Underneath the base of the Facetron, you'll notice the drive system. The drive system, the motor is here. This is the bottom of your platen. This is the driven pulley, and here's your little belt for driving. The pulley is exposed, and this is a typical for most faceting machines. There's a pulley drive or there's a direct wheel drive, and that stuff is exposed underneath the base. And when the base is sitting down in the normal operating position, you can't really get your fingers or cords or anything up there into the pulley. But if you wind up setting your Facetron if you wind up cutting a hole in a desk and setting it into the desk, or when you're working on this machine, there will be times when you need to work with your drip tube or other things. Make sure that you're never running the motor while your hands or any items are underneath the base, because it's possible, and it's ugly when it happens, to get a finger here in this drive wheel, and this makes fingers really ugly. So you don't want to be getting your fingers up in here. Keep everything out from under the base when you're doing it. So the cord is attached here, and we can just take loose the rubber band, take the cord away. You've got nice padded feet, and one of the things that you want to be careful about doing when you're moving your Facetron around, if it's on your table and you want to change the location of the machine on the table, don't slide the base. You'll break those feet off. Pick the machine up and set it where you want it to be. Pick it up if you want it closer and set it closer, but don't be sliding it around. So we took a look under the deck, under the base. Now we're going to take a look at the top of the base. One of the things we want to pay attention to, I mentioned this before and I'm going to mention it again several times because it's really important. The area of the deck where the mast is going to mate, this entire area, this is a bearing surface and it's precision critical. The tiniest little dent, ding, scratch, or problem on this metal right here is going to cause the mast, as it mates to that, the mast is going to tilt in some direction if there's a dent there. And as soon as you tilt the mast, the precision of the entire machine gets blown up. So we want to pay extra attention to being careful to protecting this delicate and high criticality area. Another area that's really important for precision is the platen. This is another surface that we really need to protect and make sure that we don't have any scratches, dents, dings, or damage on this. The lap is going to mate to this surface. So the bottom surface of the lap and the top surface of the platen, when those two mate together, that's the precision of the lap itself. So half the precision of holding the stone is the deck and the mast. The other side of that precision is the flatness and trueness of the lap. And those things have to be connected together in their precision. That's why this base plate is so heavy and so precise, so that those two things are precisely aligned. We want to protect this surface, the platen, make sure that we don't get any dents, dings, or scratches or problems on it. Otherwise, when we put the lap on it, it's going to flutter as it tries to rotate. And when we're hoping to have a precise cut, that's going to give us problems with our precision of cut. So we want to make extra attention to protecting this area, extra attention to protecting this area. So another area that we want to pay particular attention to protecting on the base plate is the control center. And the control center includes a knob that controls speed, and it's a power switch, and then also will be your speed control. It also has a 3-position rocker switch. One of those is for counterclockwise rotation. The other one is for clockwise rotation. The center position means off. We want to protect this area. Don't get it too soaking wet. It's somewhat resistant to water, but don't get this really soaked. It's not waterproof. It's not designed to be in a submarine. So don't get it too soaked. Pay close attention, and also don't bang into it with a lap or something. This is a little plastic knob here. So if you bang into it with a heavy lap, something like a bat lap or something, you'll break it right off. You don't want to be doing that. So pay attention, protect, and take good care of this area. Also, whenever we're turning the machine on and off, we want to make sure we only begin rotation by using the speed control. Always turn the speed control all the way off to stop the machine. Then if we want to change directions, after the lap stops completely, then we can change directions with the rocker switch. Never power the machine on with a rocker switch. In other words, never leave the speed control to a high speed and then hit the power switch to activate it. The motor in the Facetron machine is a permanent magnet motor. You're going to find this in all your faceting machines. Permanent magnet motors, they have a lot of torque, they're really powerful, and they go immediately to the top of their torque band as soon as they get power, which means the platen is going to spin at very high speed. It's going to spin itself free from the bottom of the lap. Then it's going to spin metal against metal, platen against the bottom of the lap. You're going to damage the lap and the platen. You also don't know what you might run into, throw something off the lap, bang into something. So always, whenever you're going to stop the machine, always, don't do it with the rocker switch. Always use the speed control, turn it all the way off, let the lap come to a complete stop, and then if you're going to change directions with the lap, then and only then, only after it comes to a stop. If you change directions on your speed control while the lap is still spinning, you're going to send electricity backwards through the motor. You may blow up the motor control. Okay? So one of the other ways that we're going to protect these surfaces on the lap or on the deck, one of the other ways we're going to protect the surfaces on the deck is with some good quality car wax. Get yourself some good quality hard carnauba car wax and just wax the whole deck. A little bit of car wax buildup around your motor control isn't going to hurt anything, and it'll help further seal it against moisture penetrating. Car wax on the deck helps protect it from abrasives, diamond powder, other stuff that gets on there, swarf. It'll make it easier to clean off, and it'll slow the process of oxidation, especially around your platen. I did mention that we need to protect the deck, we need to protect the platen. The easy way to do that, other than a little car wax, and the car wax is good for little tiny stuff and abrasives. I like to keep a nice leg of old pair of blue jeans. Any other kind of a really good shop rag will work. This is just the one that I use. And I just lay it right across the base, just like this. And I'll use this also when I'm cutting, but for when I'm handling the machine, I always have this on here. So if you drop an item, if you have a razor knife or something else in the shop, and it gets dropped on this deck, you're not going to dent the aluminum surface and screw up your tolerances. So always some multiple layers of some good soft material. And if this material gets dirty, if it gets a whole bunch of swarf on it, swarf is abrasive, so once you've gotten something with a lot of swarf on it, go and transfer the rag and use it for something else, or wash it multiple times really well until it doesn't feel stiff anymore. If it feels stiff, that concretion of swarf is in there and it'll abrade the deck as it gets moved around. So just use some high quality shop rags, put them on here. Okay, so we're going to talk about the mast. So this is the Facetron mast. It's packaged separately from the head. It's packaged under the deck. This is what the mast looks like when it's unwrapped. And there are 7 major parts to the mast. We have the base, which is also the core, the black anodized foot and the core of the mast. We have a stainless steel sleeve. The stainless steel sleeve holds the micrometer depth of cut adjustment and a locking collar to lock the micrometer in place. There's a little lever here to help you secure the mast. It's just to pull on to help you secure the mast on the base. There's a retaining nut at the bottom. This goes underneath the deck. This is what retains the mast to the deck. The 7th part of the mast is when we disassemble the stainless steel sleeve from the core. There's a little hole, and inside the little hole there's a steel ball bearing. That steel ball bearing is what your entire core of your mast or your sleeve of your mast and your head will pivot on during all of your cutting operations. That little ball bearing is what everything pivots on. It's very important that when you remove the stainless steel sleeve, sometimes that ball bearing will stick to the bottom of the micrometer. And when you remove the stainless steel sleeve, sometimes that ball bearing will fall out. You want to make sure that hasn't happened. If anything's weird when you reassemble it, look in the hole, make sure you can see the ball bearing. If you can't, look on your floor and find the ball bearing, clean it off, relubricate it, and put it back. This is the way the mast assembles. And we'll demonstrate some more about that in a few minutes. And I'm going to show you 3 different ways to keep your mast clean. It's easy to clean, but we're going to show you ways to keep it clean. So for now, we're going to set the mast to the side. Okay, so let's take a tour of the Facetron head. We've got it mounted on the mast, mounted on the machine. And let's begin with the Protractor right here. This is the coarse Protractor control. Just turning this hand crank. We can make rapid adjustments. And we can make fine adjustments by just turning this. You can see the angle readout here, 0.2 of a degree. The dark knob right on top of this, you can see it better from behind, this dark knob right here. This is just a tension adjuster. And it's just to apply enough tension to the Protractor control so that it doesn't creep around or get misadjusted by small touches of your hand. That's all it's for. Don't make this thing so tight that you lock it in place. It doesn't need to be locked up. Just a little bit of tension there so it doesn't drift. When we look at the Protractor, one of the things that we can see, it's right now showing 50 degrees. You can zoom in on this if you want. Okay, so this is 50 degrees on the Protractor. That means that we're going to be cutting at an angle of 50 degrees. If we adjust this to 49.8 degrees, it's going to look like 50.8 degrees. So always go to your full degree number and then back off if you're going to do some 7, 8, or 9/10 of a degree. In other words, always go to 49.0 and then count your way all the way to that 8 or 9/10. You'll see that it looks a little bit like 50. This is one of the possible errors that you can make. Just pay attention to it and you'll never have any problems. I always go to a full degree and then either go forwards or backwards to the 8 or 9/10. Moving around towards the front of the head, we find our mast head locking lever. And we see we have our little purple rubber band low-tech locking assistant on that. Moving further around, we find the bearing where the quill pivots. And now, looking straight, we find our index gear. On the top of the index gear is the knob that's used for locking the index gear in place into the quill. This silver item is the index gear locking lever. We press it towards the quill. I like to pinch it with my fingers against the quill in order to release the index gear for rotation. Whenever you release it, it'll lock the index gear in place. Always make sure that the line is on an index because it is possible to get this thing on a tooth and be halfway between gears. So pay attention when you're locking it. Always lock it exactly in a tooth. You can wiggle the quill to make sure. The little black knob right here, this is to lock the release in place. We hold the release down, we tighten the little thumb screw, and now we have the index gear freewheeling. This is for making smooth girdles or smooth convex surfaces. To relock it, we pinch again on the release lever, release the thumb screw, and make sure it goes all the way into the bottom, make sure it's well seated. If you leave the thumb screw part of the way in, you can detect that easily by twisting your quill, and you'll hear it rattle. That's because the locking tooth isn't all the way in the index gear. This can happen sometimes as the thumb screw will creep in while you're cutting. So check this from time to time and just back the thumb screw off a little bit and you'll get a positive lock. A little further around, we find the cheater. This is the fine adjustment. It's commonly called a cheater. It's a fine adjustment for rotation. It's actually a bolt, and the bolt pushes sideways on our index gear locker to push the locker left or push the locker right to create fine adjustment, finer than 1 tooth in terms of rotation. Always make sure that you begin cutting with this lever centered in the slot on the quill and your cheater set to 0. You don't want to begin with things skewed to the side. It becomes hard to adjust later. This is the quill. This is the part that holds your dop. When we're mounting stones for cutting, we're going to glue them to the dop. The dop goes into the quill. The Facetron has a very high precision quill, holds the dops very snugly, and they all have a flat keyed surface. Flat keyed surface goes up whenever we're on the index number of the gear that we're on. This is a 96 gear. It's on index 96. So the flat goes up on the dop, and it'll slide right into the quill very nicely. We lock the dop in place in the quill using a quill key. The quill key goes in here, right on the side, and it only requires, like everything else in the Facetron, it only requires fingertip amount of energy. Don't grab this thing and start wrenching it in here. You'll break the machine. Just fingertips. That's all that's required. That's a positive lock. The quill will not come out. The dop will not come out of the quill. Hi, I'm John Bailey, gemstone artist. Hi, I'm John Bailey, gemstone artist and founder of the Faceting Academy. Welcome to our training facility and to our video about the care, cleaning. How's that?